Aloha everyone and welcome to the Hawaii Pacific Gerontological Society's July webinar. My name is Mapuana Ta'amu and I am one of the board members for HPGS and chairperson for these webinars. I wanted to start by introducing the chat box available to us all. If you toggle around your screen, you'll see an icon of a chat bubble with the word chat under it. If you click that button, you will enter the chat room where you are able to submit questions or comments throughout this presentation. Questions will be answered during and at the end of this webinar, so please feel free to send in your thoughts, questions, and concerns regarding elder scams and financial fraud. If you aren't already, please consider becoming a member of HPGS so that you can stay updated and invited. There are various rates for individuals, organizations, and associates. Here are a few benefits you'll receive with membership. Monthly newsletters where members are welcome to submit articles to be published. We offer free monthly webinars and members are eligible to be a speaker. Special invitations to general membership meetings, kupuna-related events and workshops. And we're very proud to offer scholarships to anyone of any age pursuing education in the field of gerontology. For more information, please visit www.hpgs.org. To become a member, head over to our website and at the top navigation bar, click on the membership tab. Here you'll find more information about our membership benefits. Click and scroll to the bottom. There's a link at the bottom and here you will fill in your information and then click submit. Following this webinar, it will be uploaded and archived to our website at hpgs.org. From the homepage, hit the webinar tab and you'll be redirected to our currently offered, upcoming, and past webinars. This webinar will be added to our website no later than 1 week after today. So please feel free to share this webinar with your friends or family. Okay, let's get down to business. So we have gathered here today to talk about protecting against identity theft, scams, and financial exploitation. Thank you to those of you who have submitted personal questions that you have about elder scams. We will get to those throughout this webinar. If you have any other questions, please do use the chat box to type in your question whenever you feel the urge to. Now, I'm sure many of you are either a family caregiver caring for someone at home or in a care facility. You may be a student interested in learning more about how to protect our kupuna, or possibly a healthcare professional seeking information to bring back to your staff. Today, I have invited two special guests with expertise in elder law and estate planning. Our speakers today are Thomas Rulon and Laurie Adamshick. So Thomas Rulon earned his law degree at the Northwestern University in 1968. He has practiced estate planning, trust, and elder law in Hawaii for over 40 years and has served as president of both the tax section and the probate and estate planning section of the Hawaii State Bar Association. Tom is a fellow of the American College of Trust and Estate Counsel. Laurie Adamshick is an elder law attorney who was the primary caregiver and advocate for her late parents, Bob and Fusai Shield. Laurie is a Veterans Administration accredited attorney and a member of Elder Council, the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, the Hawaii State Estate Planning Council, and the Elder Law section of the Hawaii State Bar Association. She serves on the board of Kokuamau and the Hawaii Pacific Gerontological Society. Tom and Laurie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mapuana. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We have a lot of material and information to go through with you all. And so we're going to keep it moving. And at some point, if you feel like you missed something, don't worry. The presentation as well as the webinar the presentation can be emailed to you. The webinar will be posted on the HPGS site so you can watch it again. So don't worry about taking copious notes. We want to start first. I want to advance the slide. Let's see. Okay, thank you. We want to start first with a short discussion about why older adults are often targeted for elder scams. There was a study that came out a few years ago that looked at personality traits among people that had been scammed. And they found, interestingly, that a lot of people shared a desire to please. They were often lonely, isolated in their homes, looking for people to talk to. And they had an underlying respect for authority, meaning if somebody calls you and says they're from Medicare or Social Security and asks you to cooperate with them in providing certain information, they would follow through with it. These types of personality traits make us a little more vulnerable, and we need to be aware of who we all know we are. But beyond that, there are also physical changes in our brains as we age that can affect our vulnerability. Another study we recently read shows that the part of the brain that provides the input for what we consider our gut instinct becomes less active as we age, meaning that we become more trusting as we get older. And then the last study that we got a few years ago, you may have read yourself, showed that oftentimes people who are scammed, that's the first evidence the family has that there is perhaps dementia or cognitive impairment. It wasn't a failure to remember something, but rather an inability to be able to judge, meaning that the executive function in the brain was beginning to fail. But with all these studies, there's a more practical reason why oftentimes older folks are targeted. Tom?
Yeah, there is another factor besides changes in the brain that make older adults vulnerable to attack. And maybe that's best illustrated by when Willie Sutton was asked why he robbed banks. He responded, because that's where the money is. And many of our older adults are holders of the money. And so that's why, in many cases, they're targeted.
That's where the criminals go. The principal reason overriding all of this is that folks that are targeted often don't have enough strong social supports in place to keep them connected as they age. They don't have friends and family checking on them periodically on a regular basis. They may not have church members that call or visit. They may not have outside relationships with maybe neighbors or even the mail lady or the gardener. People that can see that they are okay or call for help if something looks wrong. They are disconnected, basically. So with this background, we want to cover 3 categories of threats today: identity theft, elder telephone scams, and elder financial exploitation. Identity theft occurs when somebody uses your personal information, often your social security number or your credit card number, without your permission to commit fraud, to apply for a credit card in your name, but it arrives at their doorstep, or to commit other frauds. But it goes on. Pardon me. Thank you. I can't seem to advance the slide. There we go. Technical issues.
Oh, no, it's
Oh, this one's delayed. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll turn this one.
Had a few technical issues here. What identity thieves really want is more than just your social security number, your credit, to latch on to your name and reputation. And that might be via getting your information about a professional license. They may be looking at your military history so they can tap into your military benefits, passwords, obviously, Medicare ID numbers, now that that's no longer a social security number. There's a lot of different pieces of information that they can make use of to take advantage of you. So it's not just your Social Security number. Every year, about 15 million Americans are victims of identity theft. And this means that the victims end up spending, on average, about 25 hours of time trying to recover their credit history and their good names after this theft. I want to give you one more statistic that I found staggering, and that is that last year, 2018, $37 billion, that's billion with a B, was lost by elders from all forms of elder financial abuse. And the authorities say this number may be grossly understated because only 1 in 45 people actually reports these crimes. The result is, for most people, emotional devastation. And this is shown by, statistically, they say that 3 times sooner than those who are not victimized. The emotional devastation takes a terrible toll. So with this enormous problem in mind, what can you do to protect against it? Some of this is common sense information, but we need to go through it carefully to remind everyone. Monitor credit reports and your account statements on a regular basis. The authorities tell us to do this annually, but for elders, perhaps it should be done, the credit report should be looked at twice a year. The account statements should be always reviewed every month. To the greatest extent possible, utilize online bill pay and direct deposit options. The bank can help you oftentimes set this up. This will automate bill paying. It means that there'll be fewer checks written, less risk of mail theft. Limit the information that's carried in your purse or your wallet. Don't carry everything with you. Make copies of important cards, your Medicare card, your driver's license, any other insurance cards, your ID. Copy both sides of the card. Keep those copies at home just in case, and only carry what you really need. And always shred confidential information, personal and financial information. And I realize not everybody has a shredder. It's sometimes seems like a pain to go out and get a shredder, but we went to Long's. I'm going to try to show you. There are shredding scissors you can buy. A very low-tech solution to the need to shred financial documents. If you're online, protect your personal information. Never trust an unsolicited email asking for anything. Don't click on any links from someone in an email from someone you don't know. This is common sense, but we need to be reminded every now and then because the criminals get better and better at disguising what they send and making it look trustworthy. And then I mentioned mail theft. There are a few steps you should take because a lot of times it is through mail theft that people are able to get the information to carry out identity theft. Get a locking security mailbox. This will stop the older man walking his dog with the plastic bag from walking by your mailbox and moving your mail into that plastic bag. This is a rampant problem on Oahu. That man was caught, but it happens quite a bit on our island. You can also go to the USPS Postal Service website, usps.com, and sign up for informed delivery. It's a service that the Postal Service provides where you'll get a daily email picture of the mail that you're going to be receiving that day. So you can see what's coming. And if there's a problem and it doesn't arrive, you'll be able to notify the authorities right away. Now we're going to move into telephone scams.
We're going to talk a little bit about elder telephone scams, some of the more common ones that are now, of course, we're going to lump some of the others in as well. One thing to remember, keep in mind is that scam artists are often extremely smart criminals, perhaps without a moral foundation or moral base. But as my wife is fond of saying, the Unabomber went to Harvard. You've got some really smart people here that are constantly thinking of new ways that they can scam. So you're not at fault if you fall a victim to a scam. These are oftentimes ones that not only elders but younger folks will become subject to. Scam calls are epidemic. The mobile phone scam calls are increasing. In fact, 44.6% of mobile calls are expected to be fraudulent. And there's also something called neighborhood spoofing. It's now used to make calls seem as if they come from an 808 area code. So you're looking at your phone and it says 808 and you think it's local. It may not be local. There's also caller ID spoofing to convince you that the call is coming from a legitimate source, for example, from a company or bank that you do business with, or from the federal government, or perhaps even from some name that you recognize that was hacked out of your caller ID. It's expected that 9 out of 10 scam calls will appear to be coming from a local area code number. So what are some common telephone scams? Well, there's the telemarketing scam. An unknown caller attempts to sell you a product you aren't interested in and buying, and that they won't let you hang up. They keep trying to talk to you. Hello, sir. I'm contacting you in response to your request for information about making an investment in Bitcoin. And they get your attention, and then pretty soon you're talking to them. And these people are smart. They're clever. So there's another scam that's frequent. Is called the grandchild scam. But actually, the caller impersonates a grandchild or a nephew or a niece or other relatives saying they're stranded, kidnapped, arrested, they need your help, don't tell my mom. Hey, and it might go something like this. Hey, grandma, this is your favorite grandson. I'm in a bit of a trouble right now. Just keep it between us, but I got a little accident and I was arrested for a DUI and things got out of control. Don't tell my folks. I need you to send me some money. Can you help me? My wife got this call. And she responded, she said, well, my oldest grandson is only 5 years old. And the person immediately responded, I mean, Auntie, this is your favorite nephew. And she said, is this Michael? Yes, this is Michael. But she caught on right away and she didn't follow up on the efforts. But this is a common scam that is going around. There are investment scams. The scammer may be a club member, a friend of a friend. They pressure you to invest money with them, and they often offer guaranteed returns. Then there's, maybe you're familiar with the home improvement scams. The scammers take money for work and then never return to complete the work or do bad work. Sometimes they break something to create more work, or they say something that needs to be done that doesn't need to be done. And you may have gotten a phone call. I'm working in the neighborhood. I'm making roof repairs and I noticed yours needs some work. Since I have some extra materials on site, I could save you some money and help you out at a greatly reduced price. That's another home improvement type scam. Then there's the IRS call scam. Scammer calls and often the caller's ID number, they give you, the scammer often alters the caller ID number to make it look like the IRS is calling. So you pick up your phone and it looks like it's coming from the Internal Revenue Service. And the callers use IRS employee titles and fake badge numbers. They might even say, they give you their name and their number, and they ask you, if you'd like, write down my badge number. So when you call back, you can connect with me. They appear to be legitimate, and they may use your name and address and other personal information. They gathered information in advance about you, so they appear to know a lot about you. And it may go something like this. We've audited your tax return. You've not paid $5,800. If you don't pay, we're going to have to close your bank account and seize the money from your bank account. And you could be arrested for tax fraud. And your credit's going to be ruined, but we can solve this for you if you can write us a check, send us a check We'll take care of this for you. One thing to remember is that the IRS will never call to demand immediate payment, nor will they call about taxes owed without first mailing a bill. There's a drug plan scam. Somebody calls claiming to be a representative of Medicare. I'm calling for Medicare. You need a prescription drug plan in order to keep your Medicare coverage. Remember, anyone cold calling you claiming to be an official Medicare agent authorized to sell you insurance is a scammer. That's a scam. There's the lottery scam. You receive mail or email notification that you've won a prize or been left an inheritance, but cash is required for taxes, shipping, government fees, and so forth. It may go something like this. Good morning, Mrs. Chang. You're the lucky winner of the national lottery. Just send us $2,500 to pay the taxes and we'll send you a check. With the Bank of Hawaii representative who said that a customer of theirs had gotten a call that she had won the Netherlands lottery. And the Netherlands lottery was a $2 million lottery. And the caller told her that Netherlands requires that you pay the tax before they can authorize sending you the money. And they told her this would be $50,000. And could she write a check for $50,000? Well, she said, I don't have $50,000. I don't have more than $6,000 or $7,000 in a bank account. So I'm sorry, I can't write you a check. And they said, well, this happens. And we understand that. So we have an investor, and the investor is willing to send you a cashier's check for $50,000 to cover the taxes if you agree to give him a quarter of your winnings. And she thought, well, okay, he gets $250,000. I'll get $1,750,000. He pays the taxes. Hey, that's not a bad deal. I mean, if he's going to pay for it, what do I have to lose? So she says, okay, I'll do that. So they sent her a document to sign in which she agreed to turn over a quarter of her winnings to this investor, and they sent her a cashier's check for $50,000. She went down and she said, well, why don't you just pay the taxes? And they said, well, the Netherlands authorities require that the payment of the taxes has to come from the winner. It can't come from another source. So that's why you have to deposit this check and then send us a check. And so she said, well, okay, there's nothing out for me. So she took the $50,000 cashier's check, deposited it into her account. She then wrote a check for $50,000 and sent it to along with the papers agreeing to give the 25%. About a week later, the bank contacted her and said the check that you deposited was fraudulent. And therefore, we couldn't honor it. Now her bank account now was empty because she had written a check for $50,000 and sent it, and they took the $6,000 out of her bank account. So she was out $6,000. The criminals, that's what they were after, is whatever the balance was in her bank account. And when Bank of Hawaii realized what had happened, they reimbursed her. So Bank of Hawaii ended up losing the $6,000. They took the hit and they reimbursed her for her loss, but then they began a training program with their customers and with their bank tellers and so forth to be on the lookout for this type of scam. Move on to another kind of scam. It's the IT tech support scam. This is where you get an email or a call on your computer, and you need to allow tech support to access your computer. Now you allow them to access your computer. Then once inside, and they do this all over over the internet. Once inside, they install malware or a malicious virus, gain access to sensitive data. And then a message follows from quote unquote Microsoft urging you to pay to remove it. This is the Windows Service Center. We've been getting reports that your computer may compromise security threats. I'm calling as a courtesy to help you fix the problem. My wife got 7 or 8 calls from computer experts that were offering to fix her computer. This is all scam. So the tip is learn to spot online infection warnings as fraud. There's no legitimate scenario where your computer will begin beeping and tell you have to call a toll-free number. Right now, probably the most current and active scam that's going around is the Social Security scam. This is currently one of the most popular scams. Someone from the Social Security, quote unquote Social Security, this is the scammer, calls and says, your Social Security number was stolen and has been deactivated. The caller will assist you with safeguarding your affected bank account and possibly getting you to increase benefits. They'll tell you that there are increased benefits that they've discovered from your record. You're asked to remove your money from the bank account, deposit it into a prepaid gift card, and you can use that gift card, but you figure, well, my money's still safe. I mean, I still got the card. The money's on the gift card. You can pick up the gift card at a Target or at a grocery store or whatever. You get a prepaid gift card, and you deposit your money into this card. Then the caller gets back a hold of you and tells you to get your increased benefits. What you need to do is give them the card number, and then they can deposit your increased Social Security benefits onto your card. So you give the serial number of the card to the caller. That all your money then disappears from the card. And what the imposter does is they convert the gift card into several lower value cards, and then they sell them at a discount on the internet. And you can go on the internet and buy gift cards at a discount. And some of these gift cards that you're buying are gift cards that are legitimate gift cards, but they were obtained by stealing money by a scammer, stealing the money from your account. In the past 12 months, the Federal Trade Commission has received more than 76,000 reports, and the average loss to folks such as you are about $1,500. There's another scam that, before we move on, that I'd like to mention, and that's the one ring scam. Your telephone rings once, and you haven't had a chance to pick it up, and you look at the number, and so almost automatically what many people do is they push the callback button, and they call back to find out, who was this calling, and they get either a person on the line, or they get a recorded message that continues to delay and talk to them and so forth. What you don't know is that the number you're calling back is a number to a foreign country. It's costing you $10 a minute or more to be on the line. The scammer gets a percentage of the profits. So what the scammer does is they try to keep you on the line for as long as possible. Eventually, when you hang up, then your telephone bill gets charged, and you've made the call, right? You've called, so you don't have any defense to this, and you get charged for maybe $100, maybe more, because you called this foreign country and been on the line for some period of time. And what happens is the scammer that kept you on the line, that called you initially, gets a percentage. That's his take for. So these one ring scam calls, don't call back. You get a one ringer.
And that's the solution here. As hard as it sounds, don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone unless you recognize the number or you're awaiting a call back, an immediate call back. Don't trust your caller ID display because it's no longer reliable. And answering the call may tell the scammer that your number is legitimate. If it's a legitimate call, they will leave a message and you can listen to the message and call back. I have found it more effective to have an unlisted phone number. It won't completely eliminate all scam calls, but it'll reduce the number of unsolicited calls that you otherwise would get. There are call blocking devices that you can purchase that will attach to a home landline, and they will filter out, the phone won't ring. They'll filter out a lot of the scam calls. Of course, new schemes are devised almost every day by these criminals, so it can't filter out everything, but it's certainly a solution to reduce the exposure.
I might also add, Laurie, that some of the telephone carriers are spotting scam calls, and a lot of times I've got T-Mobile on my cell phone, and from time to time the phone will ring, and I'll pick it up, and I'll see scam call likely. It's a message from T-Mobile, so I'll know not to answer it.
So the carriers are getting better at putting these filters in their own systems, But if you have a landline that doesn't have this built in, you can actually buy a telephone now with the smart call blocking app already built in. And those are generally available at, most Walmart and most drugstore or department store places that sell telephones. To stop all telemarketing calls won't necessarily stop scammers. Scammers don't obey the laws, obviously. But if you stop a lot of the telemarketing calls, you'll reduce the number of calls you have to worry about and answer. There is a do not call registry that the Direct Marketing Association recognizes. And so it might be worthwhile for you to go on there, put your phone number and list your phone number on there, the do not call registry. But more importantly, for any call that you get from an unknown caller, if it's an unsolicited call, don't answer, don't respond to questions, particularly yes or no questions. Sometimes you'll hear a recording that'll say yes to opt out of this call, or press 1 to opt out of this call, or to stop receiving these calls. And by responding, by speaking, by pushing a button on your phone, they now know they've got a legitimate number, and they can double down on their efforts to scam you. So the most important advice here is hang up.
Now, what happened with one of my clients, I explained this to him, and then I had to call him for something, and I called him, and I heard that the phone, somebody picked up, but there was no response, there was no answer. And I waited for a minute, and I said, hello, somebody there? Hello? Nobody answered. So then I hung up. Then I called him back. The same thing happened. It sounded like it was picked up, but there was no answer. So I said, hello. And then I said, this is Tom Rulon. I'm calling for Mr. So-and-so. And then oh, hi, Tom. I was wondering who was calling. And so he was following my advice. He wasn't saying a thing until I first identified myself and let him know that I was calling. And so I was really happy that he, in fact, had heard what I had told him, and he was putting it into practice.
It goes against our nature to be friendly, to talk to people, and particularly if you're alone all the time and you don't have enough people to talk to, you want to talk to people. So it takes a lot of forethought to turn that off and stop picking up the phone and wait and see if you get a message. Now, there is a way to keep informed about all of this, and keeping informed is very important for a lot of older folks, so they can be aware of where these attacks are coming from. AARP has a free Fraud Watch e-newsletter, which you can see on the computer, or a family member can download and print for you if you don't have computer access. And they have a site on that page with a map of Oahu that has little red flags on it. And if you click on those flags, you'll see the reports from different areas of our island of the scams that people have received. So it's a good way to understand what your neighbors are hearing, hopefully not falling victim to, but it's a way to keep aware. There is also a Fraud Watch helpline monitored by AARP. The telephone number is on your screen. And if you call them, they can give you a lot of tips and advice. They can tell you how to avoid being defrauded. But if you're concerned you've already been victimized, they can also walk you through the steps you need to take to repair your credit and to take back your good name. There's a site the federal government sponsors on USA.gov that addresses in great length a whole host of different types of scams. And so that might be a resource to you as well. Unfortunately,
It's often a family member, and maybe a family member with a drug habit, who will steal those around them, vulnerable elders We had a talk from the FBI that told the FBI representative told us that if there's a child, a grandchild, a niece or nephew in the family that has a drug problem, you can pretty much expect an attempt will be made to get money from the elder. Seniors are often treat caregivers like family, not like hired professionals, but like family members. They become very close to them. Oftentimes then with a family caregiver, there's a slippery slope. There are many, many very, capable and caring family members that don't fall into this, but we have run into more and more situations where there's a family member that kind of rationalizes. They start out taking mom's credit card, going to the store to buy groceries for her, and then getting groceries for themselves. After all, I'm helping to take care of her. I should be able to buy my own groceries. And then as time goes on, mom's staying in their home with them. Well, maybe mom should be paying their mortgage. Maybe mom should be paying the repairs and maintenance fees and so forth that are required. After all, my brothers and sisters aren't chipping in to help. I'm doing all the work. I should get something extra for this. And pretty soon that slippery slope continues, and the family caregiver ends up taking more and more from their senior. As a result, older adults may be vulnerable to inappropriate requests also for loans and for gifts from family members and from professional caregivers. Exploiters not only may not ask for anything, but may say that they're having a hard time. We're having some trouble, and the elderly person will ask them, well, what's going on? What's happening? And they may have some problem that's going on in the family, and to gain sympathy, and pretty soon there's an offer of help that's coming from the senior.
If you don't mind my butting in here, we have a client who suffered this way. He had a caregiver who came in to say, gee, my son got on the soccer team, but I feel so bad. I can't afford to buy him soccer shoes. And this very generous-hearted older man said, well, let's go to the store and get him some soccer shoes. And it started small, but it ended up being a great loss of many thousands of dollars. She worked him over, basically.
Because of the family relationships, many older adults are reluctant to report their family member to the authorities or to press charges. I talked to a representative from Adult Protective Services that told me the most egregious situation she had was a son who convinced mom to turn the title to the home over into his name so that she could qualify for government assistance through Medicaid. And he had a deed prepared. She signed the home over to him. She was living with him in the home. And once the home was signed over to him, he called the police and had her removed from the house, had her evicted from the house. He owned the house and he had her evicted. She went to live with her friend. Her friend said, well, this is wrong. This can't happen. I mean, this isn't right. So the friend called Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services investigated. They told her, listen, we get this thing, we get deed out, we can get this reversed. We can get your house back into your name. All you have to do is sign this thing and we can go after your son and do that. And she wouldn't sign it. She said, well, he's really a good boy and he must be having some problems. And she wasn't going to sign anything that would get her son in trouble. And so she's, as far as we know, still living with her friend because she wouldn't press charges basically against her son. And this happens a lot. An older person will not want to, bring a complaint against a family member. And the family member then is emboldened and continues to take advantage of and exploit their family member. So it's important to remember when you're dealing with, particularly with a non-family member, with a professional caregiver, that it's unethical and off limits for a professional caregiver to accept a loan or a gift from a client, whether or not they requested it. Their acceptance could cost them their job. It could cost them their future livelihood. It could also result in a criminal investigation and charges being brought against them. So it's very important for professional caregivers to be aware that they could lose their ability to support themselves if they accept loans or gifts from clients. That's off limits.
And let me just point out that all good caregiving agencies prohibit their employees from accepting gifts or loans, whether or not it was requested. It is a loss of your livelihood if you're caught doing this. So the solution is simple, although perhaps hard to remind people to keep at the top of their mind. Never give anything. Don't give or loan anything of any value, anything more than a small token gift to a caregiver. Find another way to express your appreciation. Don't endanger their job by giving them something that could come back and be a problem for them later. And if there's any concern when a private caregiver, a professional caregiver, or even a family caregiver is suddenly in the home, about the potential for loss here, of course, you want to safeguard your valuables, but we also suggest that you let your financial institutions know that if there's any reason to be suspicious on their end, that not only should they contact the account holder, but contact a trusted person that the account holder has given authority to. This might be a friend or a family member. In other words, tell the bank manager, if you see something suspicious on my account, call my attorney, call my pastor, call my brother. The elder may not be able to do anything about it, but the family member, the trusted advisor might be able to step in and begin to take action to stop it from going any further.
Mm-hmm. There's one way of reducing a caregiver temptation, and this might be for a family member or a professional caregiver, to set up a TrueLink prepaid Visa card instead of using a credit card. We've got the website on there for TrueLink, and what you can do is you can have a TrueLink card issued in the name of an individual. I've got one individual that I'm looking after that has, I've got a TrueLink card. It's a debit card issued in his name. So he can go to the grocery store and he can make purchases with the TrueLink card. I periodically will add money to the TrueLink card, and but I can go also designate where he can use the card. He can use it at Walmart, he can use it at the ABC store, and I can also block him from using it at certain places. I found a card and he would end up, and there was $400 missing from his credit, and I'd say, you can't do this. But, he said, well, I'm tempted. And so I got him this TrueLink card. And he can't go into the bar with the TrueLink card, and he can't spend it, purchase alcohol with it. He can't get cash advances from it. He's got SSI, and so that would jeopardize his entitlements. But he can use it to purchase groceries, to purchase household goods and things, and to give him a sense of independence. So you can get a TrueLink card to a client, to an individual, so that they have a sense of independence, and you can periodically put money onto it. You also can get a daily report or a weekly report or a monthly report if you want, as to what the money is being spent on. Now you could also get a TrueLink card giver that's taking care of it could be a family caregiver, a family member caregiver, or a professional. Get them a TrueLink card. When you purchase, go to the grocery store on behalf of the client, you're getting a record of everything that they spent that TrueLink card, that money for. The TrueLink card looks like a card. Maybe, I don't know if you can see this. This is right here is a debit card. It's a Visa card. It's a stable on it because I got it under as part of an ABLE account. But you don't have to be part of an ABLE account to get a TrueLink card. As we put on here, it's for use by caregivers. It can be used by individuals. It can pick up prescription drugs or buy groceries or toiletries. It can purchase. Purchasing can be confined to only those stores you name, and it can exclude items that you choose that they can't purchase, such as alcohol or cigarettes, and you get an accounting of everything that the card was spent on. So this becomes a way of reducing caregiver temptation and also providing for your clients or for your individual family member some independence and having their own card that they can use for selected purposes.
For those vulnerable elders who have cognitive impairment, they're already on the dementia spectrum, there are a few tips we can offer to help safeguard money. We often hear that they've lost their wallet or all the money has been spent on something unintended. So we usually suggest that all the credit card and debit cards be removed from their wallet or their purse and replaced with a low value prepaid card. So they have some security that they've got some money. In the same way, get rid of all the cash, put a lot of ones in there and a lot of coins so they have a sense of security that the wallet's not completely empty. More importantly, get rid of junk mail, because junk mail often results in unintended ordering of things or sweepstakes entries. If you walk into a home and you see a large stack of Publishers Clearinghouse entries that haven't been filled out, be aware that you may, if you've got an elder with cognitive impairment, they may think they've already won. And you could find that there's a lot of unintended spending. So get rid of all the junk mail. We've got ways to do that on the screen. You can pre-screen offers and insurance offers by opting out. There's a specific site and a specific phone number there on the screen that will take you off the list. And for somebody with cognitive impairment, this is important. And another telemarketing resource that a lot of folks use, you can call up, put your elder's information in there, and that will, again, will reduce the amount of telemarketing calls. Finally, and most importantly, for folks that are living at home, aging in place, it's really vital that you maintain social interactions, that you see people, that you don't allow your home to become a prison, basically. Don't stay home alone. When you're isolated from folks, then you become a lot more vulnerable to these kinds of scams and the predators that are out there looking to separate you from your money. Consider the social opportunities that are available in a lot of retirement communities and assisted living communities. Even the senior centers, it's good to see and talk to other people. You are less likely to be victimized if you, and it's much easier to say no to that phone ringing and not answer if you've got other social actions happening in your life. If in doubt, always seek advice before acting. Tom actually has an example of that. We have a friend who is a physician who got a call from the Social Security office, or supposedly from the Social Security office, asking for information. And he called Tom and said, "What do I do here?" And Tom said, "Don't call. Don't call back. Social Security doesn't call you up like that." He made the right decision. He called Tom first. So if in doubt, talk to a family member, call a trusted advisor for some advice.
Now we've set some time here at the end of our presentation so that we can deal with any questions. If you've experienced scams, you know, scams are changing. New scams are being thought about. Bright people that are coming up with ways to cheat our elderly, our folks and our elderly people out of money, cheat you and I out of money. And so you may have some recent scams that we have not yet heard about. Call in or text in here and let us know. Maybe we can get that information out to those that are listening as well. I remember listening to a person it was several months ago, when there was a big sting operation that the government had done on a group of folks that were doing scams on, I think it had to do with another part of the Social Security. And it was, what happened was the newspaper wrote this up. Within a day after the newspaper publication about this big sting operation, scam artists were calling people across the country saying, "You probably read in the newspaper about this big sting operation. Well, I'm calling from the Social Security office, and we want to make sure that you're protected, and so and that your Social Security checks are not going to be delayed. And so we want to, follow up on this sting operation to make sure that you're protected and that you're not one of the victims." And so they collected information from people that they were then able to use to defraud them. So these scam artists are listening. They're watching the newspapers. They're listening to what's going on TV. They're watching what we're saying right now. And I hopefully some of them haven't gotten ideas on how they can modify their scam so that they can then target you. So anyway, do we have any questions that may be coming in? Something that we can respond to?
Well, one of our attendees has heard about a financial power of attorney. Could you describe the role or the duties of what a financial power of attorney can do and what that means?
Sure. If you've got about an hour, we can cover. In fact, we have a whole talk, Laurie and I and our nurse on staff with us, Kim. We have a whole talk on financial powers of attorney because there's a standard power of attorney that you can get that's that was authorized under the Uniform Power of Attorney Act for the state of Hawaii. And it's actually a form is appended to the legislation that enabled the Uniform Power of Attorney Act. And so we have a standard form for Hawaii, but what we've done in our practice and what many attorneys do is form with additional clauses, take some clauses out that are inappropriate, add clauses in that are appropriate. It's probably one of the most powerful documents you can have as you're planning for the future. But it's a very dangerous document. It's a document in which you give another person the authority to speak on your behalf. It can be limited to purpose, or it can be expanded over general things, and it can be a power of attorney that lasts for a certain period of time or lasts indefinitely. A power is to act on your. So selecting the agent of attorney can be very, very important because agent. Generally, it's a family member. It could be a close friend. The banks will not accept a position as an agent under a power of attorney, and so it's going to have to be an individual. Individual should be reliable, should be trustworthy. Obviously, it gives such authority to that person that person could also end up being a person who ends up stealing or causing harm. And so you have to be very careful in the selection of a power of attorney. What we do with our powers of attorney, we often suggest that maybe you have two people on the power of attorney instead of one. You can have multiple agents. We also want to be sure that if one becomes incapacitated or dies or moves away, that there's an alternate that can step into place. And one of the clauses we include in the power of attorney is that the agent account to and keep the other family members informed of what their action is under the power of attorney. So you don't have somebody just acting independently and on their own and the other family members are wondering what's going on. We require the agent to account to other family members.
That accounting is really important. In my own family, I've seen a family member fail to account for little things. And when they fail to account for little things, you have reason to be concerned about the big things.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of shooting off the top of my head some of the things to consider with a power of attorney, but we do have a much more organized and prepared presentations so that we be sure to cover all the major parts of a power of attorney. Power of attorney, one thing to remember is power of attorney terminates at death. And so oftentimes a person will have, in addition to a power of attorney, a revocable trust or other kinds of accounts, like a joint account or something for a small amount that does not terminate at death, so that action can be continued after a person dies to pay some bills and to pay for the funeral and so forth. But anyway, that's all part of a different talk. Maybe I can go on and talk, but maybe there are some other questions that we should be looking at.
So from the same person, wondering if there is a financial power of attorney in place and say a family member or a friend, maybe even a healthcare provider, assumes that this person is abusing their financial powers, what should they do about it?
Well, the first place we often suggest that somebody that thinks there's being some kind of an elder abuse do is to call Adult Protective Services. You can make an anonymous complaint, in effect.
And they have a 24/7 hotline also.
And they can go out and investigate, and it can be anonymous.
And the Elder Abuse Unit of the prosecutor's office is another resource you may call to report a suspicion of financial exploitation. Mm-hmm. They take that very seriously.
So those are two avenues that could be approached if you think a power of attorney is being improperly used or abused.
When would you recommend that we find a financial power of attorney for my loved one? I
think a power of attorney, as I mentioned, is a very powerful document, and it's is an essential document. I think a financial power of attorney and an advanced healthcare directive are two of the documents that everyone should have. The power of attorney, you can get a power of attorney if you don't have assets. If you qualify for legal aid, the Legal Aid Society will prepare a power of attorney for you. I think what they do is once a month. Isn't that right, Laurie? Once a month they get a group
Something
together,
like that, yeah.
And they will assist with the power of attorney and notarize it for you. You can get a power of attorney from, it used to be from the University of Hawaii Elder Law Project. Now, they were not funded sufficiently this past year, so they're not doing powers of attorney now. But I think in the past, and perhaps in the future, they'll be able to do that. That's the law school at UH. I had a client actually come in that had gone on, I think it was LegalZoom or one of the those places you go on the internet, and downloaded a power of attorney and had one prepared for his aunt. And so he pulled out and he says, well, I got this off the internet. And I thought, let me take a look at it. I looked at it. It was really quite good. It had some very helpful clauses in it that were helpful to us in being able to assist his now cognitively impaired aunt. And he was able to act on her behalf, and he got it off of the internet. What we do, but with the power of attorney, when a person engages us to do it, it's part of an overall estate planning project. It's not a document that we do without also doing trust agreements, wills,
and more comprehensive long-term care planning.
Yeah, we do a lot more comprehensive planning with our elderly clients with long-term care planning. So, our power of attorney, as many attorneys that do powers of attorney, it's customized. We start out with a kind of a boilerplate form that may be issued by the state of Hawaii, as an attachment to the legislation that I mentioned. But we'll start out with the original boilerplate form, and then we will add clauses to it. We'll take certain clauses out of it. We will modify it and change it so that it's customized basically for the needs and expectations of our individual clients.
I want to just get back to the initial question. When should you get one? Everyone should have one. I suggested to my 25-year-old daughter that she should have a power of attorney, because what if you're in a car accident, you end up in the hospital and you can't pay your bills and you're not going to be home for a while, or maybe you're in a coma? Everyone should have a financial power of attorney.
What happens is the power of attorney then replaces the need in many cases for revocable trust. Or for, and I take that back, it replaces the need for a guardianship. Oftentimes, if a person has financial assets and they need to pay bills, they need to have a management done, and if there's no power of attorney, oftentimes there's an expense involved. A lawyer will need to be hired to prepare and file with court a petition to have a guardian appointed. But if you have a well-drafted, thorough, in-place power of attorney, oftentimes we never need to get to the point where you need a guardianship. We can avoid the cost and expense and the of a guardianship completely by the use of a power of attorney, a well-drafted power of attorney.
So another question says that upon death is when the power of attorney, I think,
Terminates.
would terminate.
Yes.
If I am the person who is needing a power of attorney and I sign over, say, my daughter, would I lose my rights to my finances?
No. The power of attorney is just authorizing somebody else to act on your behalf. It doesn't substitute. It's not a delegation of control. You can always take back your power of attorney. You can also override the action that the person with the power of attorney has done. And generally, we don't record a power of attorney. So it's a private document. The person may go to the bank and show it to the bank official in order to have authority to access an account or to pay bills from an account. Right now, the bank will probably call the principal to make sure that the power of attorney is, in fact, a legitimate one. But it doesn't. You're not giving up control. You're just letting somebody else sign your name on your behalf, but you still stay in control with the power of attorney. So are we about? We must be getting close to time.
Yeah, so if anyone else has any more questions or a story that you'd like to share, please type it in the chat box. And we'd love to hear your stories. Do you have any questions? You sure you don't have any?
No, I have a story.
Okay.
Might be different than what you were telling me.
You might not want to come down here. We have a live audience today, just so that your voice can be heard.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Ivani.
Ivani. So we have one participant here in the office today that would like to share a story that she's come across throughout her professional experience caregiving.
This one is a story of a fraud that was experienced by one of our clients. So this client is active on Facebook, and I guess there are groups of fan base groups, and in this case it was a new kid on the block fan group. And apparently she's been getting texts or chat conversations from somebody who's claiming to be a member of New Kids on the Block. So a celebrity who's been communicating with her as if he's interested in being her friend, and then later like a loving, like a romantic relationship. And so over time, this person apparently is saying, oh, I would like to marry you. I would like to come out to Hawaii. But for some reason, like, I don't have the funds, the
Yes,
celebrity claiming to be in love with her do not have the funds to get out there and make this romantic relationship materialize or happen. And so I need you to give me money in the forms of gift cards. And so this person was desperately trying to get her lover out here. And she's, it's really money she doesn't have. She desperately collecting recyclables, trying to redeem her cash. This she later turns into gift cards, unmarked gift cards, of course, that she sends to this address.
So that's interesting. One of the areas that we didn't talk about in our scams was the romantic scam. And that's an example, if you were able to hear that, an example of the romantic scam that is being utilized over the internet through such things as Facebook or other social media in order to generate basically a fictitious relationship. And then from that relationship, maybe a sad story or the need for travel expenditures to be able to come and visit, and a way of getting, of scamming money, the romantic scam.
They are so vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. And so if you have family members like that and you're not visiting regularly and you know that they're cut off from the rest of the world, don't be surprised if this happens. They are the prime targets for the kinds of criminals that are trying to separate them from their money.
All right, well, that looks like all the questions that we have for today. Thank you so much, Laurie and Tom, for joining us on this Thursday.
Well, thank you for inviting us. We
Yes,
appreciate the opportunity
Thank
to
you,
come and
Uncle.
share our information and our knowledge with you and with the those listening in.
So I'm just going to make a few last-minute announcements. So we have our next webinar on Thursday, August 29th, same time at 11:30 here via webinar. And we will have Miles Diaz, who is a certified senior fitness specialist, talking about the benefits of exercise and nutrition to fight Alzheimer's disease. Not just for Alzheimer's disease, but to be healthy as we age as well. So there are a few learning objectives that he will focus on. And I'm sure that this link is live. So if you want to quickly head over and RSVP before you forget, you can go on to hpgs.org under the webinar tab, and there will be this flyer as well for you to receive. Otherwise, we will be sending it out again when August begins. And if you are a member, you will be receiving that via email. If you're not a member, please do sign up to become a member. Besides this webinar, we do a lot of big healthcare related things that are related to gerontology, Alzheimer's disease, exercise, nutrition, how to stay fit and healthy while you're aging in place, financial abuse. So stay tuned for more information on what else we will be providing throughout this year and next year. Other than that, thank you all for coming today, and I'll see you next month.